Okay, it's 2 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order. Again, if there's anybody else has any written questions they want to submit, there's paper and pencil at the back of the room there for you to do that. And we'll read them off. This is a owners-only meeting, so any non-owners will please have to leave. Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance. Thank you. Please turn your cell phones off or put them on mute during the meeting. The purpose of this meeting is for owners, residents to meet candidates who applied for the board positions available. We have 5 candidates here, and we'll have some pre-submitted questions, or you can submit questions now. And we'll give, some will be for specific candidates, and we will have that candidate answer the question first, and we'll offer the other candidates the opportunity to also respond or comment on that question also. Questions should be asked and answered respectfully at all times. Any disrespectful questions will not be read. Any gotcha questions, we don't want that. We want intelligent questions for intelligent candidates. Again, some of the questions were already entered or given to me via email, and some will be given here today. Richard Kane will be reviewing the questions and the ones submitted today. Thank you, Richard. Appreciate it. And I also want to thank the election committee, Mary Haley, Rita Fick, and Ann Maxwell for helping out in setting this meeting up. Thank you. Now, one thing I want you to keep in mind is that candidates that are already board members may have specific information on your questions that non-members do not have. So I want to try to keep those questions out because it's an unfair advantage to the sitting board members in those matters. So let's just try to, we'll try to keep those questions out, or just if they are in there, then the sitting board members, please try to answer them in a way that doesn't give you an advantage over the non-board members. You know what I mean? Did I say that right? We will. What we're going to do is initially offer each candidate up to 5 minutes to give you the information on them, their resume, and why they think they should be members of the board of directors. And then during the question and answer period, once the question is read, we'll give them around 2 minutes to respond. I'm not going to put them on a clock, but I just try to keep down 2 minutes on the response. Okay, so first thing we'll do is start. I guess we'll start on this side of the table here, and you have 5 minutes to talk about yourself.
It won't take that long, believe me. Okay. Well, as some of you know, my name is Ron Merritt. I'm Lot 420. I've answered a call for a vacancy on the board last June, and interviewed with them, and I was selected to participate in the board from that point forward. So, month of July till now. During that time, I'm still working. I work a full-time job down in Carlsbad, and I commute back to the ranch every day, which is quite a bear. But during that time, I've got to participate in a lot of meetings with the board for a variety of subject matters, some decision-making, some information gathering, some executive sessions with members over incidences or special circumstances they may have, payment plans, things like that. My major project all this time has been the maintenance building. So that's my primary focus during this period, but participating in the board is the second. My background is in finance. I work on big projects, and I handle all the financial matters, the scheduling, the planning. I consider myself a pretty good planner. I've been doing that for almost 30 years now. Recently, we had our treasurer depart the board, and I had to gather up, I was tasked with being your interim treasurer. I had to gather up all the information to do the year-end report and present the budget to you all, which I did at the last meeting. I hope you all got something out of that. But the state of things is pretty good. It's a matter of gathering the information and looking forward to the next year. We have a lot of decisions to make regarding our finances that I think the board will be tasked with the best use of our money. We have a substantial amount of construction deficit account that is a lot of money, $3.7 million. And what do we do with this money? What projects need to get going on out of that deficit account that we need to consider? And should we roll some of that money into the regular reserve? So all these kind of questions will be things the board needs to look into. I think I'm a good guy to drive those subject matters. I think I understand it probably better than anyone on the board. I'm hoping I can bring that financial expertise to another term, well, for first term actually, so if you choose to select me. I think that's all I have to say.
Hi guys, my name is Denise Peterson. I'm on lot 228, and I'm 2 years older than I was last time I did this. Having had the privilege of serving on the board for 2 years now, I have learned a lot. I don't make the decision to run for a second term lightly. I now know how difficult being a board member can be. And yet, here I am asking for your vote. I believe my business background in real estate, office administration, as well as handling my own employees, qualifies me to help represent you. Also, successful involvement in many of the committees here at the ranch shows my commitment to step up. Some issues I discussed a couple years ago when first applying for the board were: 1, more town hall meetings. Whether or not it's a town hall meeting or a regular HOA meeting, we need to do a better job of informing you. We did recently publish the HOA meeting schedule through the end of the year. That's a start. It's still not enough. We need consistent communication, number 2, consistent communication and a regularly published newsletter. Even though the newsletter did not get published as I'd hoped, the board has sent out numerous email blasts to keep owners better informed, and of course we do have the Facebook page. The good news, and that's not enough. I completely understand that. The good news is Janice Harper has graciously stepped up and has offered to create and maintain a monthly newsletter for us. Number 3, I wanted a functional website. I started out on the website committee, which was disbanded after Ted Arnold left the resort. But then thanks to Scott Richburger's hard work, we now have a functional website that both owners and guests alike can get valuable information. Number 4, I stated 2 years ago I wanted to improve employee efficiency and accountability by bringing on an equity management company, changes in staffing and duties, both in the office and the field. Things have seen much improvement. All employees are now background checked and drug screened. And also with the addition of employee uniforms, the maintenance crew looks more professional and unified. They're easily recognized by both owners and guests alike. We have had some significant changes and overall upgrades to the resort the past few years. This place is a moving target, and there's always going to be ongoing projects. It takes a village to get all of this done. Some of the projects that I have that have been completed or in progress since I was on the board and I was involved in to varying degrees are the activities. The board member must oversee all of these committees because of the fiduciary responsibilities and financial decisions. However, no one person can plan and do everything. I've been the one doing most of that for the last 2 years. Good news, we currently have a couple of owners who are agreeing to step up and take on some projects, but we still need a regular committee. The next one, property acquisition, which was in the works months prior to my tenure, and Schaefer was very heavily involved in that. We finally were able to complete that on July 16th. Took a lot of meetings, phone conferences, and attorneys after I got on the board, but it happened. That acquisition brought us the cafe building, the HOA office space, the water towers, and more. We then separately were able to procure the RV storage area and update it. I was very involved with the HOA office renovation after we acquired it. The Rancho Happenings Facebook site has been created. I had a hand in bringing the more efficient propane and pickup schedule, as well as credit card usage, to fruition. I worked very closely with the vendor on the purchase of the security cameras in the small clubhouse, and also with the installation of the locks on all of the buildings we now have to better secure the property. We now have a fresh water well that's up and running, but we're still waiting for permits from the county for the actual water tanks. The fitness center has been upgraded, and we have safer commercial-grade equipment. Desert landscaping is still ongoing. A company, not our office staff, members volunteering, was hired to upgrade and take over our much improved internet. We have a new security company, which is more coverage and less money than we were going to be paying before. And last but not least, the number one priority that the membership has asked for over and over is the cafe and market. None of these were done by just me, but with a team. I was privileged to be involved. Other items that still need to be completed, the CCNR rewrite, we're in the process of that, but we need to jump back into that heavily and get that brought to fruition for you guys. We have got 2 amendments that we got through, the 10-year rule and the CCNR for Super Cs. Those have passed. We need to upgrade our rules and regulations and architectural guidelines. Obviously, the maintenance building is a huge project we need to get done. And the main clubhouse is a building I'm willing to take on to help renovate once we move forward here. Since elected 2 years ago, I've worked very, very hard to focus on your needs as an owner. While not all decisions I've made have been the most popular one, none were made without my searching and looking long-term what the long-term fiduciary responsibilities and fiduciary things were going to be to you, the membership. I have been present. I have been highly involved in all aspects of the resort and the board issues. I have served on a variety of capacities during my tenure, but no matter what office I've held or what office I may hold in the future, I have always and always will keep the interests of the membership to the forefront. The board is faced with a variety of challenges on a daily basis. I'm willing to take on these challenges as we look to our future. I thank you for your time, and we appreciate your vote.
Good morning. Actually, afternoon. Time flies as we get older. My name is John Schaefer. For those of you that don't know me, I was on the board for 6 years, 2.5 of those as president. And when I wasn't reelected, I realized I can actually retire. It was the strangest feeling for the longest time, and I thought, I'm liking this retirement thing. But now I really felt the call to come back and serve on the board again, and because of my experience. And I think that's what's needed is more experience. My wife and I wrestled with this decision for a long time, and it was not easy, and it was a difficult time for both of us. There's ups and downs. We're both pretty adamant about the place, and we enjoy being here, but it takes time and a lot of effort. And the unsung heroes is your other half, because they have to put up with you being gone a lot. Last week's board meeting provided a great 2018 budget review, and thanks, Ron, for all the time you spent in that presentation. It's good to have a 2018 budget picture. There's still a few more things that I think need to be addressed, but more importantly, what items do you think need to be addressed? Because that's what I think we need to work on, is what you need and what you want to see happen in here. If I'm elected, what I really want to do is to work with and become an integral part of the board and provide support and the benefit of my experience. It appears that everyone is listing their accomplishments, no offense. But I've never done this, so I sat down and wrote a list, and relax, I'm not going to read it. I'm just going to run through a couple things, major items. I became the GM for 3 months when the past GM, Tony, was terminated. I spent months and months negotiating the provisions in the bankruptcy with the trustees when ORA filed BK, and they filed BK before any judgment or settlement in the construction defect lawsuit. A big project that I watched was a new irrigation pump and system and reworking of holes 6 and 7. As Ron mentioned, and I agree, a major project has to be watched on a daily and hourly basis to ensure that we get what we paid for. And I'm ready to work with the board to ensure that we are getting that. I'm asking you for your vote. together we can keep the ranch on track and make it a place we're all very proud of. I take a lot of pride in the things that I did when I was on the board, and I know that I made decisions that weren't popular with some people. But at the end of every decision, it was always asked, how does this affect 593 people? And the other question when the board made a decision was, can you go out here and explain to everybody in the resort exactly why we did that? And that's one of the important things that I think needs to happen. Before we make major decisions, we need to go out and talk about what we're going to do and why. This is not the board's resort, it's our resort. We are simply the stewards and the trustees of your money and this facility, and we need to operate it under those guidelines. Okay? That's it, and I hope you'll consider me for the position. I think I'm crazy, but here I am again. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Scott Johnson, and I'm thrilled to own Lot 384. I'm here before you today to tell you I'm confident with my education and experience over the years I can fill any job on this board. However, that might not matter. I digress. What do we have? A month or so ago, we got emails asking if anybody wanted to run for the board. If they were interested, obviously to send in an application, send in all of our information. And I did that, and then I started talking to board members, and I found out that I'm the only new person running. So I got to thinking about this more seriously. Why? Why am I the only new person running? Is it because this job is so horrible that there's such a disconnect? I don't think that's true. I think we do have a bit of a disconnect, and I think what I would like to see done is have us treat you more as shareholders in this resort than owners that we're here making rules for. As a shareholder, you'd have more input, and when you came to a meeting like this, there would be good news to be told, because we all have had input on it. If I'm elected, I would like to spend a couple hours a week sitting at the cafe. Anybody come in, buy a soda, buy a coffee, anything you want, we'll sit down, we can talk about everything. I don't know how this board has worked in the past. I've only been here 9 months. I can only tell you that I've worked with a $30 million budget before, so I think $3 million I can figure out. And I'm going to stop there. I'm sure there'll be plenty of questions. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Frank Ojeda. Like Ron, I wasn't elected by you. I was actually voted in by the board. I filled a void also from a vacant slot. I was selected to be on the board. I've been on since May. So here I am again. Currently I'm the vice president of the board. I'm also the architect committee, where most of you probably know me from, because I'm in and around throughout the resort all the time. I'm also the chairperson for the RV committee. Those are just some of the small things that I do around here. In the meantime, like Denise said earlier, I'm not going to read off all those things, but as the board, we mentioned on Saturday's meeting of the accomplishments that we completed throughout the year for all of you, and some of those are just maintenance issues which needed to be done. And some of them you guys are well aware of what you can see and what you can do. Let's see, just so you know that I've been involved with unions and BODs for about 35 years, since I was a teenager or more, doing all this stuff, knowing how they work. This is kind of the first time that I've actually taken on the challenge to actually be on the board. This was something that I just kind of dove into. I know about boards, I know how they operate. And I know that the painstakingly hard hours that they have to put in and the things that they have to do. But this was the first challenge that I've ever taken in order to be able to do it. Like I said, I'm here asking for your votes again. I've spent most of my career being a fireman, While doing that, of course, I've got managerial certs, captain certs. I was a Fire Control 3 instructor, which means that I taught firemen how fire worked, how to put it out. So I know about instructing and how to do that. I was also instrumental in helping to bring on a Fire Explorer program within our department, writing the rules and regs, talking to the city managers and all the council people, bringing up what they called IEFEA, which is an Inland Empire Explorer Academy for the San Bernardino and Riverside counties. We hold that up there now at Fort Irwin. It started out with like 50 people. Now they instruct anywhere from 220 to 280 people up there. We teach high school kids, basically 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th graders, not only just to become firemen, but also to learn and adapt and know the hierarchy of chain of command. You know, you need to know who your supervisor is, and so on and so forth. And so they learn how to just get more than just fire service training. They learn also how to deal with people in general, and we teach them a little more than just that. We teach them how to deal with life also, and different personalities. So I believe that I learned that enough through the years that I've spent in the fire service, and so I'm here again asking for your votes in order to be able to run on the board again. Thank you.
Thank you, each and every one of you, and I have an apology to make right now that when I should have introduced each member before they gave their little dissertation. I did not do that. I apologize. But most of you know them anyway, so, but sorry about that. What we're going to do is I'm going to start. I got 6 pre-submitted questions here. I'm going to read these first, and then we'll go into the ones that were submitted today. What we'll do is we'll start here with Ron and go down the line for each response on each candidate, and then we'll just go down the line and rotate each position, okay? Okay, for each candidate, it has been a long, this is from Rich Jones on lot 235. It has been a long-held understanding that each board member, regardless of their assigned position on the board, has equal authority in decision-making with respect to board matters. Please share your views on how you envision your role fitting into that understanding.
I think that that's a good question. One of the things I've learned being a senior manager at a big firm and having a lot of responsibility is understanding that different people work at their own pace. They have their own personalities, their way of working. When you entrust somebody with something, you have to show them enough respect to stay in your lane while they stay in their lane. If they ask you for help, that's a completely different thing. You come and help them to the best of your ability. But like when Denise was doing the cafe project, I didn't go over there and say, well, what are you doing with this and what are you doing with that? No, you should use this light fixture. You should use this color. That's not my project. If she asked me, hey, Ron, can you help me understand what this is? Sure, I'm glad to help. And I think that's the way a good board works together. I think this board has been fantastic in the working relationships. Me, Denise, and Frank all work very well together. We have mutual respect, and Mike. But we're not afraid to tell each other, no, I don't agree with that. I mean, we've had a couple of things. Not every vote is unanimous. If you can convince them to come your way, maybe you can pull the vote around. And sometimes you can't. So you just try your best. It all starts with mutual respect, and I think we have that. I think we've demonstrated that. And that's what I think I bring to the table is people knowing they can count on me doing my end, and they can count on me not interfering with what they're doing.
Okay, I do agree with what Ron said. We have meetings, and once somebody is assigned a project, then that person takes the lead on that, and we all talk together and make decisions of what money is allowed to be spent and what general ideas are. But we try to stay with our projects and just keep the board informed. We disagree a lot, which I would hope we would, because we all are individual, intelligent people. So that being said, we all come out of that room as a unified once we make the decision. passing the question along because you forget what the question was as you go.
The board is made up of 5 very different individuals, and each one has 1 vote. And at the end of the day, no matter what the item is you're working on or vote on, you still have 1 vote, and you all have to agree at the end of the day that that's the direction you're going to go. Now, it may be 4-1 or 3-2, whatever the numbers turn out to be. You have to be able, at the end of that time, to come out with the same answer, and the next day, go back and work together. So the mutual respect is a huge thing. And you have to rely on the fact that that person has the best possible interests for the resort and the handling of our resort. And it's important that we keep that in mind because it's really easy to get off track. So working together, I mean, it's the only way that this is going to get accomplished is by being a good team and get things done. Thanks.
I disagree with 3 of you. I don't like autonomous decisions in any type of board or government or anything like that. I think we should each have our own opinions. They should be put on the table, and we should try to work within a framework that we set together. Then if somebody wants to be in charge of the project, that's fine. But I don't like autonomous decisions at all. I prefer feedback and discussion, and I don't mind being the 12th juror.
Well, I guess we all have varying opinions, which is good, and that's fine, and that's what we're all about. I've grown up in sports my whole life. Being a fireman, you work as a team. You don't work alone. There's no I in team. So in one aspect or another, you do have to respect each other. You have to just understand that everybody has a difference of opinion, like it or not. You know, you might get told, no, that's not right, and, that's fine. Everybody has their own opinion. In the end, like John said, in the end, you all have to agree, even if you agree to disagree. That's fine. That's how it goes. But in the end, you all have to be up here in the front, and you all have to stand up here and tell everybody that this is what it's all about. So, that's all.
Okay, the second question is from Andrea Barnes on lot, it's not written down here, I think she's about 190 something, I believe. I'm interested in knowing whether any emergency preparations such as backup generators, food storage, specific emergency plans, ways to contact those in the park easily, etc., are being discussed and planned. This is one of those kind of questions that possibly current board members have more knowledge than non-board members, but just keep that in mind, okay?
Okay. Anyway, we don't have enough emergency preparations. We do have some backup generators for the couple of the buildings, but not for everyone. Everybody needs to be on their own food storage and water storage. That's why we have storage in our RVs. But I definitely can see the need, and hopefully, Andrew, if you're here, you can help head up a committee to get better prepared for everything. Thank you.
Inevitably, we'll have a disaster on July 4th or 5th, and it'll be 106 degrees, and the power will go out because somebody lit a fire 7 miles from here and burned down a pole, and now we have nothing. For those that have RVs and a generator, it's inconvenient, but you still have air conditioning because it's 107 outside. For everybody else, it suddenly becomes a matter of you suddenly find out who your next best friend is, so they open the door and let you in so you're not going to pass out. One of the things that we tried to do before, and we actually had it, and it unfortunately burned up, we had an air conditioner, a generator, big enough to power the air conditioning in this building. And that was the idea, that if we really got in a bind, we have enough diesel fuel that we could have run that generator for probably 3 days, which is about the amount of time it would probably take to get everything put together again. And I think we need to go back to that direction again, but that's just me. Yeah, that would be, for those that don't have cooling, that would be an idea. I think we also, and I think Denise is right, we've got to find a way to communicate better and quicker. I know at one time we were, and I know we talked about this before, is an instant text message that would get to everybody. But not only are they ridiculously expensive, they're awkward to use, and if you don't keep the phone numbers up, you're suddenly sending a text message to meet at some place to some guy who lives in South Dakota, and he's thinking, what the heck is going on? So it's not an easy thing to do, but it was looked at one time. So is there room for improvement? There always is. But we know that we've had times that we have been cut off from the power out here, and we've been a few days without. Fortunately, it hasn't been 107. Thanks.
I have no idea what they've been working on. It does sound like a good idea to have more emergency situations or precautions in place. I've talked to somebody that we even had at one time some people that did EMT things here, is that correct? And we ran into insurance problems, is that what I heard with that? Okay, that's too bad. We could maybe relook at that a little bit. I know we don't even have an AED device. We do have it in the park? Or how many people are qualified for it? Okay, anyway, so there are things that we have in place. We just need to streamline them a little bit and make everybody aware of what's going on. Thank you.
Well, you know, I guess we could use some of that. I think we're all still responsible for our own stuff, generators and stuff. We do have backup generators and things like that. I think the best communication that we can have is to know your neighbors. Get to know everybody. Get to know who's here, who's not here. Rely on each other would be a big deal, and we've tried to do that with the night watch. They were asking people to get to know who your neighbors are, so that when they're not here, that you can be able to contact them, you know, let them know what's going on, kind of, you know, keep an eye on their place. You don't always have to go over there and sweep up or do any of that stuff, but just watch out for each other. I think that's just a general thing in the type of environment that we live in. So, yes, some of the food storage and things like that, I think we've even got a blessing with the store and the restaurant that'll help out a little bit. But I think we need to make sure that we have a little extra on hand. I know that we do a lot. I mean, we're set up a lot of times for just people who show up. We have snacks on hand. We have party stuff. I mean, we have storage for things like that to be able to last a couple of days. So I think people just, besides just relying on the resort to take care of you, I think you first need to try and take care of yourself, and then the resort could be your secondary feature to help out when things get tough, the power's down and things like that. So.
Not my turn. Okay. There are things we do collectively, and there are things we need to do individually. As RVers, we are all pretty self-reliant people. We all have tanks in our RVs. We have water. We keep them topped up. You know, we have batteries or a generator. So for the most part, I think most individuals are in pretty good shape if something were to happen. You know, as an issue for the resort, no, it's not something we've been talking about, because we already have a lot of things in place that were well positioned for disaster. I mean, we have all these ponds that are full, that you've seen the helicopters come in and scoop up water to help put out fires. We're very well positioned for fire emergency. Our water is on wells. We have generators to run those pumps. We have big tanks up the hill to store a good amount of water, which they're full. So depending on the amount of disruption, I think we're collectively in pretty good shape. But one thing we could all work on is we do keep the master contact list up in the front of the office, and I know they struggle with current addresses for people to send your packets to. Well, your next of kin is a good one to have on that list. If there's something happens to you, we need to call somebody to take care of you. And I assume that's you know, someone in your family. So that information should be up at the office, but it's up to you to go give them that information. It'd take a minute to stop by during your busy week to make sure that that's up to date. But as an issue for the board, if the membership thinks that it's not enough and we should do something, that we take our cues from the membership, because we're not ruling over you, we're serving you. So if you have ideas about that, and we can help guide those discussions, things like massive generators to power the resort if there was a power outage, there's a long list of consequences that come from that decision or that interest that could, run into the millions of dollars. So, okay, so those are the kind of things that the board kind of helps guide the discussion, but as a board, we're not doing anything to suggest that that's an issue that we're working further on.
Denise has it.
I also wanted to mention that we do have the CERT trailer that's up by the water tower. There are quite a few individuals, 20 at one time, that are certified, which is the county emergency response team. There are some supplies in there. We need to work harder on all of that.
Thank you. Okay, next would be Ron Morgan, lot 320. He has 2 questions, actually. I am aware of at least 2 owners that have no respect for quiet hours. After repeated complaints to security and management, the behavior has not changed. In fact, the behavior is defiant. Short of having owners bring the Riverside Sheriffs into our property, who enforce very strict codes, including $1,000 fine and imprisonment, what would you do to beef up our codes to ensure peace to neighborhoods, yet allow members to party within reasonable limits? I submit that right now our code is not working. And I believe Mr. Schaefer's up there.
It's a funny thing about RV parks. We all adopted this lifestyle, and you pretty much live outdoors. And if you lived in your old home or wherever you were prior to coming here, you had walls and you had boundaries, and you could do what you wanted to do on your property and not be offensive to your neighbors. Well, when you're 30 feet apart or less, you suddenly all have to be very considerate of each other's feelings and really be aware of your neighbor's, your relationship with your neighbor. Barring that, it does fall back to the board to bring that particular individual, if it's a consistent problem, and have a discussion with them and come down to, if necessary, to an executive session. It's the last thing, I believe, the last thing that the board really want to do, because when you get down to an executive session, it always feels like, well, I've really done something wrong, and 2, nobody really seems to win. Everybody's unhappy about the decision that's forced on that person. So how far do you want to go? As far as it needs to is to get that person to understand you have neighbors that are very close. Is the executive session the answer? I certainly hope not, but it seems like in that particular case, it could end up going that direction. So, thank you.
I thought we were all adults to begin with. Short of that, mediation should be available. I mean, come on, folks. Most of us are retired. We're living here in this beautiful place. I think instead of somebody telling somebody what they need to do, we need to work harder to have some better communication, maybe a sit down, and actually do some mediation before we get into the law enforcement business. Thank you.
Well, that's a toughie, because me being on the board, I have a little more insight to that. I'm not going to go into that part. But yeah, I think maybe a sit down with the individuals to just kind of have them curb that, and then see where it goes from there. I mean, there's multiple steps to get to where you have an executive session, and so if we can get those people to just kind of understand, and we're not telling them to not party. We're just telling them to tone it down after a certain time frame. And, you know, that it just, like the same thing, you just have to be respectful of the people that are next to you. You're not in a home, which is a whole different scenario than, I mean, like you said, we're right next door. I mean, we can, you know, just about spit on our neighbor, you know. Not that you want to do that, but but that's how close you are. So I think, yeah, first we need to discuss it with the individuals, and then we can go from there with, like I said, there's multiple steps to get to executive session. So I think we can try that first.
One of the things that I was amazed at when I joined the board was the amount of time spent dealing with issues such as this. There is a constant stream of people that will not adhere to the rules. I mean, when you came out here and bought in, you understood it was communal living. So you have to have some respect for the close proximity to other people, that they have a right to have the quiet enjoyment of their property, just like you do. And so we have some that, you know, a little drink and friends around, they get a little rambunctious. And then there are others that on the other side, they threaten to kill people. So you have to have some judgment as to how you handle these things. But we've had a few things lately that, you know, I'm of the mind that you shouldn't have to go over to your neighbor and say, hey, cut it out, quiet down. I mean, you can do that if you want to, but you shouldn't have to be put in that position to do that. That's what we have a security force for. If we have security personnel, and you know, for the most part, they do a pretty good job, and their job is to administer the policy set by the board and our general manager. If they let people through the gate intoxicated, or they don't respond to complaints, then they're not adhering to that policy and they need to go. We're not afraid to fire a beloved security guard if he won't do the job. Everyone has to do the job we're paying good money for. I'm a big believer in that. It starts with everybody that works for us, that they have to do the best they can to do the job. Not that they're perfect in everything they do, because God help me, nobody is. But they have to try to do the job that we've tasked them with doing. If they're doing that, then they can stay, and we'd love to have them. Quiet hours, of course, are in the evening. People need to respect that. But again, you don't need to be calling somebody is a little loud at 4 in the afternoon. That's a different matter than if they're loud at 11 o'clock at night. So we all have to use some judgment. We're all grown-ups. We have to get along in a small space. So I don't know if that's really an answer, but that's what I have.
Okay, I would love it if everybody could just resolve their issues and everything would be happy and fluffy. There are personalities and there are differences of opinion, and there are people who like to party and be loud and people who would rather be quiet and left alone. They all have a right to do that within the guidelines that we have set forth, which are the rules and regs, and we have quiet hours. If this has been taken to security and management and it's not being resolved, it may be that the board has to get involved and call the people in and figure out what we need to do to resolve the issue. The bottom line is we have to follow the rules.
Okay, next question, also from Ron Morgan, lot 320. I went on a quest to find Rancho California RV Resort's mission statement this week. After a lot of research, I was informed that none exists. It occurs to me that any organization should have this statement in place to drive all decisions in future in a unified, thoughtful way. That said, I would like each candidate to address the issue and state which statement might be included in their mission statement. Examples might be increased property values, manage and beautify the common spaces, maximize and/or decrease the HOA fees, provide security, etc. If you have priorities, then he wants to hear your priorities for a mission statement. It's an excellent question, by the way. I think we're down at Scott. Go ahead.
I've worked in large corporations most of my life, and they all had mission statements. I don't know what the hell that meant. A lot of times it was a saying that was supposed to invigorate you or get the employees going. Those would be a type of mission statement. I don't know if I would have a mission statement, but I can tell you a few things that I would have some emphasis on. I know that Ron had very little time to work on this, this budget, but it concerns me a lot. Somewhere in this mission statement would be my mission. I looked at this budget for about half an hour, and I found 7 categories that include the words miscellaneous, other, and general. The businesses I've been involved with don't have those words in their budgets. It's a more finite group of, anyway, what I'm trying to say is we've got way too many entries in this budget. There's what, 80 line items, 90 line items. I think we have some duplicity here. I think we need to go through it line by line. I think some of these items need to be in other accounts. And because I don't know how many times I'll get the microphone, words like miscellaneous income, I don't know what that is. And then there's cash on hand. I'd like to know who has the cash and why we have so much cash on hand and it's not in the bank. Anyway, my mission would be to clean these things up. I don't particularly have a mission statement.
Well, unfortunately, we're not a corporation. But it's not written as one. I've gone through our rules and regs, all our CUPs. Unfortunately, lawyers were the one that wrote them, not us. In that stance, they don't include mission statements. They don't include vision statements. And yeah, but for the most part, most places have those. It's in their wording. I guess you can pull out wording. You can create your own, beautifying the place, making our properties higher value. Those types of things can be included in a mission statement. Adopting rules and regs, understanding the needs of the owners, promoting health, safety, general welfare, and enjoyment of all owners. All that can be included in a mission statement. That would be great if we can come up with one. That would be something that if this is something that you want, then the board can be tasked, whoever it is that you vote for, can be tasked to come up with a mission statement. Unfortunately, like I said, lawyers are the ones that wrote most of this stuff. And some of the rules and stuff were adopted from other rules and blended in to fit our needs. Yeah, I mean, the members elect the HOA people, they elect the board members, and if that's the task that you would like, then we can come up with one that includes some of the things that Ron put in, some of the things I had mentioned about health, safety, general welfare, enjoyment of the resort, because that is actually what we want here, is we want to make sure that we all enjoy it, we're all safe. We have to think about employees that we have that most resorts don't have. They usually farm that stuff out to outside vendors. So those are some of the things that we'd all have to think about in order to incorporate for our most valuable asset would be our maintenance people in order to keep this place the way it is. So that is the internal, but you as the members are actually the ones that would dictate all of that. So thank you.
All right. I'm not really big on mission statements either. I think we all have the same goal, is that everyone gets the maximum enjoyment out of their property, that they get a good return on their investment out here, and that they enjoy it while they can. I think that is something, if we were to do such a thing, we would craft it around that kind of concept. But it takes, I've done mission statements before in a large company. It takes many months of arguing over the wording. When we got done, did it really make a difference? We still did the job that we intended to do, and I think this board intends to do that. And I'm, for one, am looking for ways to maximize our property values. What's holding them back is what I would like to start diving into. I hear little things here and there. A lot of people have ideas about this. I have some of my own, but I think we should, as a board, push that this year. As far as understanding the finances and the budgets, there's two things. One, if you look down the listing I gave you for the budget categories for 18, they're very concise. They're not all these extraneous miscellaneous categories. We weeded those out. They creeped into 17 because of accounting entries. Miscellaneous income, though, I know what that is. That's our retail. When you buy a sprinkler head cover, or you buy signs or copies, all those things in the front office, that's miscellaneous income. Should it say retail income? Probably. Probably. We'll fix that. But just because something doesn't look like it's worded properly doesn't mean we don't understand what it is.
Okay, mission statement. I actually think we have one somewhere. I know I read it at some point. I'm guessing that when the new website got created, it didn't get pulled over, and we need to fix that. Both John and I are going, we have one, don't we? So I think we do have one. We just need to pull it out and find it and fix it, put it out there for you.
We're going back around again, but no, we did have one.
I thought I remembered seeing it, or reading it. Okay, next question, William Hemphill, lot 468, I believe. What is your position on allowing pit bulls into the resort? There are some in the park now. Also, what is your position on banning pit bulls from the park? Also, what is your position on the resort's liability insurance costs when pit bulls are now covered? It seems that if they were banned, our liability insurance premiums would be less. And we're down here at Scott, I believe. Oh, I'm sorry.
I haven't been here that long, and as far as I know from talking to former board members and stuff, we haven't had a ban on any type of dog. And if you're going to go as far as banning one dog, that means you have to go as far as banning the top 10 dogs. So if you're going to do that, and that is the wishes of the membership, which means you'd need a super vote on that, because that's not something the board is going to be able to do, because you got to look at the rest of the owners that live here, which means that if you're banning those types of dogs, that means you really can't ban the owner having a dog that's already here, which means that it would have to take an effect where they would be, as the dog passes away, then they can't replace it with that type of dog. So you're going into Shepherds and Doberman Pinschers, Rottweilers, all those dogs in there. And then do you add, instead of just what they would consider the most dangerous dogs, do you go into the most aggressive dogs? If you're going into the most aggressive dogs, then you're into another little section, which includes Chihuahuas, Chows, those types of things. So how do you get into that aspect of it? So that would have to be something that the members themselves would have to come up with, and you can't pick one dog. So, thank you.
Thank you for the lightening up of the meeting. Chihuahuas, all right. Good question. Do I have an answer at this moment about dogs? No. I would have to obviously dive into it and talk to homeowners. I don't know, have we had any incidents with a dog ever before? Yeah, we have? Okay. Well, as long as then there may be a problem then, so. Anyway, I suppose that's something we could look at if we need to.
I love dogs. I just lost my dog this week. He finally gave up the fight. He is the most ferocious Boston Terrier you ever saw. He's actually bit people, and I know how that happens. Usually they're of bad character, but he could tell. But when the first incident of the pit bulls came up, I investigated this topic. I talked with our general manager. Our insurance covers us for the resort is covered for liability from dog bites, all the big breeds. It's nothing we pay extra for. It's not a rider. It's included in the general liability. There's not really any savings to eliminate it. But I did ask the question, what about owners of these kind of dogs having, requiring liability insurance? And we looked through the language because she was very adamant that everyone must have liability insurance. Well, no, they don't. If you are, and the language must have come from the days if there was financing for lots, that you had to have insurance to go along to cover your mortgager. But right now, you don't have to have insurance of any kind. It's your choice. Now, is that an issue that we should address as a board, that people with dogs should have insurance? That's a good question that should be debated. We're not going to solve it right here. But you would be smart to have insurance if you have a large breed dog, just because anything with a mouth will bite. It doesn't have to be a pit bull. It can be a Dalmatian. My personal homeowner's insurance bans 10 breeds of dogs. It does. Back east, it bans certain dogs. You can't have them. You got to buy a rider. It's a way to get more money out of you. But I think everyone should have a dog. You know, most bad dogs are because they're bred that way. It's the owner's problem, not the dog's problem. But there are natural things that happen with dogs if they get into a fight or an altercation with another dog or whatever. But I think that's an issue that we should discuss is insurance of individual owners.
When my daughter was 8 years old, she was almost killed by a German Shepherd. Do I have a fear of big dogs? You bet. Do I think we should ban them? I don't think we should ban any specific breed necessarily. I think that owners need to be held accountable and they need to be liable, and I agree with Ron, we probably need to look into making sure they have insurance, liability insurance. It comes down to the owner of the dog needs to keep the dog under control. We also have minor problems with dogs coming in from outside the resort. I had 3 this morning on my walk that security was chasing, and they went up Pato Frio right. We have a pit bull that keeps coming down from High Point. He's not aggressive, he just wanders around and gets in the garbage and things. So I think that it's an issue, but we wouldn't, as far as I can, my opinion, I wouldn't entertain banning it unless you, the membership, has a vote and wants to.
Those of you that know me that know that I have this very aggressive miniature schnauzer. He's been known to lick people to death, so you have to be a little careful. And if you got a treat in your pocket, just run because you're fair game for him. We've got all kinds of dogs in here, and be really practical about it. It is the owner's responsibility to keep the dog under control, on the leash, in their yard. Somehow, some way, keep that dog from mixing it up with another dog or with a neighbor, because that's the problem. It isn't that the dog is bad or good or whatever, it's just that they're allowed too much leeway, and you know if the dog's got a problem and you should be taking care of it. Leash them, fence them, whatever you have to do, but you can't let them run free on your lot. I mean, you've got to be there to control them. I've seen people let their dog run around their lot unattended. I know a couple that have, but that dog gets to, I'm going to not point people out, but it knows the property line somehow. It's a smart dog. And it stops. And it's friendly. It's not a problem. But there are other dogs that just tend to wander whenever they feel like it. And it's a problem. And, you know, my dog will take off and walk up on the golf course and walk down to the neighbor's yard and just to go see their dog. And he comes back like, I went out and played. Does he listen to me? Sometimes, kind of like my wife, and we just go along and deal with it. Fortunately, I don't have to pick up after her. Don't tell her I said that. That kind of slipped out. It's just, the owner's got to take care of the animal, and you've got to be cautious if you got any kind of an aggressive dog. I couldn't help myself.
You're going to pay for that later, I guarantee you. Oh, yeah. Okay, next one is from Wayne Verba on lot 186. It's actually a 4-part question. The first 3 are for John Schaefer, the last one is for everybody. What we'll do is I will read the questions one at a time. John can respond or not, it's up to you. And then if another board member wants to chime in, that's fine too, okay? Question number one, our homeowners' dues increased a very modest $10 this year, $5 going into reserves and $5 because of an increase in liability insurance. Our liability insurance increased mainly because of 3 lawsuits. It is not true that 2 of these lawsuits was, is it not true that 2 of these lawsuits was because of you forcing a homeowner to reveal the name of an employee with a criminal record in a homeowner's meeting? Both the homeowner and the employee sued. And the other because of the homeowner having a biking accident on the road by the water tank, and when the homeowner asked the board to help with medical bills, the board said no and immediately posted a no trespassing sign to cover our liability. Now, I just want to say real quick, I talked to the person that wrote this, who's a friend of mine, and I said, this is kind of coming close to a gotcha question, which I don't really like to do. But I'm sure John will want to say something on it, because I know John, and I think he'll probably want to comment on it.
I don't know how many of you people were at that meeting, but it was a meeting to discuss the settlement on the bankruptcy and other things, and this subject came up. It was very interesting because the lawsuit was brought, and I'm going to be in real tight water here because I've got a gag order, and it still exists right now. So if you suddenly find that the sheriff shows up and picks me up, it's because I've been arrested for talking about it. Thank you very much. But I'm going to defend myself. That meeting, I never held a gun to their head, never went over with a baseball bat, never kicked them, swore at them, cussed at them, or nothing. I said, you need to tell us who it is. Now, their claim was that they tried to have a meeting with me in advance. Wrong. I'll go back and show you all my emails. I have them back for 6 years. I've got 7,000 emails. I'll be happy to show them to you. Read them all. There's no indication that they ever requested a meeting with me. Now, what took place was, I'm talking about the one where Jerry Brown was accused of being a felon. Jerry Brown was arrested now 27 years ago for smoking or having a joint in her car that belonged to her boyfriend at the time. 27 years ago. That's after she's worked here for 14 years. And it's a misdemeanor. So they had bad information. It was a slander and a libelous situation. Now let's talk about the case on the Hill. The gentleman involved had from what I was told, because I was not on the board at the time that the lawsuit came to pass, I was already off. But from what I understand from the investigator that was here, he rode up the backside of the water tower to the top, around the tank, and then down that road at 2 o'clock in the morning. No light, no helmet. And I was told he had a few beverages. I can't swear to that. I can't even make any other comment about this and that. But they were both settled. And I can't talk about the settlement because then I will be in trouble. But the settlements were covered by the insurance, and I can't talk about anything other than that. So was I involved in them? Yeah. Did I defend the resort to the best of my ability at the time and the employee? You bet. Would I defend it again? You gotcha. And the part about the chain being put up afterwards, that had been there for quite a while. Sorry, folks. I was up there when it was put up, and I know, because I asked it to be put up. No one needs to be up that hill, and here's why. In the room that is outside that big tank is a chlorinator. And that chlorinator, once you're inside there, anybody who didn't like us a whole lot could actually put things in the water that wouldn't do us any good. So we're very careful, and this board is the same way. That's locked and watched closely just for that reason. I have nothing else to say, except thanks for the question. Sorry.
Anybody else, any other candidate want to comment on that at all? Okay. Question number 2. Can you tell us the complete story concerning the purchase of the maintenance building? Rumor we got a deal from a company in Northern California. In the great deal, we paid too much money and we purchased non-architectural drawings for $25,000 that was just recently received, I have been told. by a contractor that architectural drawings for a multi-million-dollar home would only cost half this amount? You don't need to respond if you don't want to.
You're right, I don't have to respond. The gentleman's name who we had hired originally to contract this and to talk about it, to help us develop the property, was recommended by an owner who was, I'm allowed to go nameless, but you all know who it is, and they have had this guy put up a building for them. He does an excellent job. We had someone come in and bid against his price for putting up the building, and he beat their price by $100,000. Now, the price on the building, we gave them a deposit to hold the price on the building because steel kept going up. We gave them a deposit, and that building and the deposit are still ready for us whenever we want. It hasn't been stamped, it hasn't been pulled out of inventory, it's a hold on the steel itself to fabricate the building. We also have the drawings that the guy put together, and from what I understand and saw last weekend, Ron posted the same drawings that the gentleman put together, and Bill Dumford is his name, and he does a fine job. Those are the same drawings, and the reason we ended up paying him more money than he originally quoted us is because we kept making changes which required an architect to redraw it to pass the county to construct the building and get permits. Every time you change it, it costs money. You can't just figure, oh, we're Rancho, they'll do it for free. No, these guys get a lot of money to redraw that stuff. That's where the building is, and that's where the drawings are right now. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any other candidate comment?
The deal with Dumford was very problematic, and without getting into a lot of it, all the drawings we've received to date are worthless. There's so much time has expired. We had to have the building recontracted. We didn't even have a deal for the building. They didn't have to honor this deposit we made. Half the deposit money was a kickback to Dumford as a commission. The deal was ethically very problematic and set us up for nothing but change orders and extra costs as a surprise down the road. The layout was basically dictating to Juan how the building was going to be for him to use and try to do his business down there. We are opening that up to him having input into the layout of the building so it's best used to house our equipment and for him to work in every day with his crew. I don't believe in dictating to the maintenance staff how they should manage their affairs. So they're going to have voice into how the building is actually constructed. Again, the building code had changed in all this time, so we had to regroup, and our architect, the building manufacturer, we're neck deep in him. We could have started over with a new manufacturer, but we decided that the monies, we could recover some of our money. An alternate bid would not be that much less money. So to save time, we went forward. We did have to increase our deposit to secure the building. We have drawings in hand. They're ready to manufacture when our architect says that the drawings are sufficient and they haven't missed anything. We haven't wanted further changes to it. But this whole deal has kind of reiterated to me that being on the board requires a lot of judgment. You have to think of the downstream circumstances for what you're doing. When you name people out in a meeting, you take actions out in the facility, you got to think about what could happen and what those consequences could be, because they could be significant to all of you, because you pay the bills. If the money we have on account isn't just magic free money. It's money you put in there, and we have to be good stewards of it. And that takes experience and attention. And if you don't know something, you have to go find somebody that does know. And that's the way I conduct myself in my affairs.
Anybody else? Good? Okay. Okay, the third part I'm not going to read. It's based on too much rumor, and I don't want to go there. The fourth part's a good question, though. This is for all the candidates. What is your opinion of the job equity management is doing for us, both in handling our employees and our finances? Okay, where are we at on the rotation? Okay.
I get to talk too much today. having a management firm is good and bad. The bad is you pay a fee, you pay fees. The good news is they bring some professionalism to it. The big thing they've helped us this year is on our past due collections and doing the dirty work of confronting owners that won't pay their dues or are behind for whatever reason, and encouraging them to pay up, which is necessary because if they don't pay, guess who gets to pay? All of you and me. They handle all the staff issues. We don't have to handle if two of our crew aren't getting along and one of them is telling on another one or whatever, or they don't show up on time for work. They handle all of that. They pay the competitive rates. They tell us if there's money issues. They handle their insurance. They handle all these things that normally we would, a homegrown general manager would have to deal with. So I think we've had some bumps in the road. We've had our gripes with them, but they've listened, and we're making changes constantly. So I think overall it's working pretty well. Can it work better? Yeah.
I think what equity management and having management companies done far and beyond anything we had before is the drug screens and the background checks. Everybody questioned, as in the Jerry Brown issue. They thought she was a felon. Somebody told me they thought Calvin was a felon. Well, they passed all of that, so they aren't. And all of our employees have been drug tested and background checked, and they're good. That's the biggest thing. Have there been bumps? You bet. Was the transition easy? Nope. But it's a constantly changing target that we will address pretty much on a daily basis.
I really haven't had any experience beyond what you all have had, so I really don't have an opinion at this point, as long as we're getting the value that we're paying for. And I believe we are. So there you go.
I think I would like to look at the relationship between the board and the management company a little bit and make sure that the dog is wagging the tail on some items. I know the management company is there, the general manager, you're very happy with her apparently, but I want to make sure she's not making too many decisions on her own and then letting us know what has happened.
I wasn't part of the initial transition. And yeah, we did have some bumps in the road from what I've been here to see what was going on. Fortunately, we found out what those bumps were. We decided to change offices, as you were all told on Saturday's meeting, which will better suit our needs with the fact that the Palm Desert office actually deals with resorts similar to us, or they have the higher end Class A motorhome park that they also deal with over there. So I think that will suit us better. They know what we need, how we operate. They know how to get around the system to suit our needs instead of just a general housing track. So I think in that aspect, I think it will work right. Like they said, definitely we did change a lot of things in the, and like I said, I've got insight to this, but we did change some things in the contract so that we have more control. I think with the other one, it was a learning process. So we will be able to dictate a little more what they're going to do, and they're also going to be able to handle a little more of the financing aspect of it. So we're more of the stewards of it rather than the actual creators of it. So that will help us out a lot.
Thank you. Okay, we have 3 more questions that were submitted today. Richard's going to handle those, so bear with us and we'll get to these quickly.
Yes, Richard Kane, Lot 400. I don't know if this is so much a candidate question, but I'll read it if you want to comment. It's a question about trash pickup. We just returned after 5 months away and put our trash out on Thursday. It was not picked up. It was put out after 7, I'm presuming that's a.m., and before 1. We did the same today, or did the same again today. No pickup. Are there certain days for pickup? Lot 438.
It's supposed to be picked up every day, and if it's put out by 1, it should be picked up. Something happened that it was missed. Maybe it's too down deep in the pot, I don't know, but that would be a GM and a maintenance issue.
Lot 499, there's no name on. This, I think, is a very good question. If you were elected, what could you do to get more people, volunteers around here involved?
Getting people to volunteer to help out to do things in here has always been a problem, and I don't know why. It benefits everybody, and trying to get people to understand that you're not asked to carry the whole load, but just carry part of the load is a difficult thing. Perhaps that's exactly what we need to do, is explain and work with the committees to say that if you're the entertainment committee, you're not, like Denise has been doing, running the whole thing. You've got just a small portion that's not going to require that you be at it, the whole time that the event's going on, or 20 hours a week or more, getting prepared.
Yeah, I'll speak to trying to get volunteers. It's a never-ending battle to try to get volunteers with the activities. It's really tough because they take a lot of planning, they take a lot of cleanup, and nobody wants to sit with the bands until 11 o'clock at night. It is what it is, and I don't know how to get people to volunteer. Obviously, I haven't done very good because nobody has. So. Very few. I apologize, Marla.
Maybe there hasn't been something exciting enough going on that people want to volunteer for. I don't think that's the case. So what you're telling me is either you're on the board or you don't care about what goes on. That's scary to me. That's very scary. We're going to have to find a way to motivate people to get involved. Let's make it a reason to be involved, not, we're doing this or that. Let's be specific. Let's let you know what's going on. I think more transparency and more communication between small projects going on a daily basis will behoove us more than just a board working on the problems. Thank you.
Like everybody else, I don't know how to get more people motivated to help out. I mean, these are your events. It's hard to just show up to something if nobody plans anything. Like I said, I've been in the public sector most of my life. This is what I do. I volunteered myself to do the architectural committee. Sometimes begrudgingly, I volunteered to do the board. But I'm here. I'm here to serve you. I do the RV committee stuff. Trying to get people to come in and volunteer to help is just something that you need to be kind of self-motivated, because it's hard to ask people to do something that they don't want to do. I couldn't tell you how to bring things in. I mean, you got to take pride in the activities that are going around here, and even if you just help set tables and chairs up or put decorations up, 4th of July is coming up and there's nobody who stepped up for that. It takes months of preparation to do stuff like that. It's a lot of work. I get it, but if you can get people to join in and help out, you're not the one doing it. Everybody's taking part in it. And then you can all be thankful and take pride in the fact that you did it. You can see how successful some of those things are. So those who help out, kudos for you. But it would be nice to get more people to help out. Thanks.
How about a volunteer coordinator?
If you're willing to take that, you are an angel.
I think to a large extent, because we're all volunteers here, so we understand volunteerism. But it's going to kind of be a natural selection. I mean, if we don't have volunteers, then the activities are going to change. Like Case in point, if we don't have somebody take on the chili cook-off, we're not going to have one. And life will go on, and we won't have that event. I'm not big on the dinner dance thing myself. I can see why people like to do it. But if you want those things, you're going to have to stand up and help out. Now, do some things go on too long? Is it too big a commitment? Is that what's holding people back? Do we need to have more activities that are kind of a hit and run? That it's like I was thinking of a movie night. Well, that's a volunteerism of one day to set up the equipment, put some chairs out, and we have a little thing, and then we all go home. That doesn't take a lot of volunteerism to pull that off. A gambling trip to the casino is a matter of just calling the bus and having them come pick us up, collect the money, we all go up there and have a good time for an evening. So maybe those kind of events, those short type of events that aren't a huge commitment, maybe those would be more successful. I have no idea. We'd have to try it. And I think we should try to mix it up and maybe not do the same old things we've done every year, and maybe think of some new things that are not such a big commitment and see if they work better.
Okay, last and final question from John Gilmore, Lot 188. It's addressed to John Schaefer. Would you like to call a friend? And after John answers, if anybody else wants to respond, that's fine too. Since you have already been vice president and president, if get elected, are you okay with being a team player and taking a lesser position on the board?
All day. I have to tell you, if you ask the gentleman standing in the back with his arms crossed and his bulletproof vest on, he will probably agree with you. The hot seat is good for a while, but boy, after a bit of time, it does start to wear on you. So it doesn't matter what position, you're all working for the same end anyhow. And by the way, thanks.
Any other comments on that one? Okay, yes. Is that it? That's all the questions? Okay, next meeting is 2 weeks from the day, February 17th, same time, same place. We appreciate everybody coming out. Great questions. And
I'm sorry. I'm just doing my spiel for the Super Bowl Cafe at 12:30 for the boards, and the small clubhouse will be open if you want to take your own food. $2 hot dogs and $3 beers on the patio of the cafe.
a lot of fun. Thank you all for coming out. Thank you, candidates, very much. And the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.